Run, river, run, run through the hills. Run, river, run to the sea. Run, river, run to your place beneath the sun. Run, river, run over me.
Hi, this is Jan Lewis. Welcome to be my guest. Today we have an author from Douglas, and her name is Karen Michalson, and she has written a book. I don't think I've ever seen this word before. It's pretty fascinating. The Maenad's God. I got it right. Welcome. Welcome to Karen. And look at that. Did you pick the cover?
I helped design the cover. It's my concept. There's a story behind it, actually.
Yeah, what is that?
Well, let me talk a little bit about what the Maenad's God is, and then the cover will make a lot more sense. The Maenad's God is Dionysus in ancient Greek mythology, and he is a god of hallucination and visions, and in terms of this book, rock and roll, hard rock music. The Maenad's God, because he's the Maenad's God, the Maenad is a follower of Dionysus, a kind of priestess. She was known at the time as a wise woman or a raving one or a mad woman.
Dionysus?
Yes.
I've never even heard of that.
He was an ancient Greek deity, and he was associated with ecstasy. And I guess if you really want to, summarize him, some people today associate him with, having a good time, but he's not that simple. He's the God that lets you see into the truth of things, gives you visions, gives you hallucinations, gives you the kind of religious ecstasy that gives you that sort of truth, and then leaves you. And a Maenad would be a woman, and they were always female, that followed him, that would follow him up the mountainside, that would follow him looking for those visions, experiencing those visions. So scholars for centuries now have referred to him as the Maenad's God. And Dionysus and Dionysian energy is all through this novel. It's a novel in part. It's a love song to hard rock and rock and roll, but it's also about the creative impulse. And I will answer your question about the cover, but I'm kind of on another tab here. The creative impulse for the narrator, Pete, his name is Pete Morrow. He's an FBI agent. He's really, really disillusioned with life.
Yeah. He's a misanthropic. What does that mean?
He hates people.
He hates people.
and it's partly a result of his job, because as an FBI agent who's dealt with serial killers and the worst of humanity, he's seen it all. And it's kind of made him very skeptical of everybody. Also, he has had a share of observing government corruption, so he doesn't have a lot of faith in government institutions either. And so what he does to get through life at the opening of the book is he delves into literature and art. That's his escape. And that makes him or encourages him to want something better. Why can't there be innocence in the world? Why can't there be something beautiful and pure? Everything seems to fall apart. Now, early on in the book, his boss, I don't know where I got that from, his boss sends him off on what looks like it's going to be a nothing kind of case.
Like a nothing burger.
Yes, exactly. Sends him up here. You're going to go to Utica, New York. And by the way, he works in Boston. And you're going to scare we think there's this drug dealer on this army base out there. You're going to scare him off and come back. That's all you have to do. Well, he gets there and he stumbles into this really bizarre murder. And part of what he finds in the murder is a corpse on the base that resembles the base commander, and it is cut open, and inside is all these rock and roll memorabilia, Grateful Dead tickets from 20 years ago. I mean, the time frame of the book is in the early 90s, just so everybody's position what 20 years ago would have meant, and all kinds of things. And a rock band that's playing at the scene, and the rock band was invited there down from Canada. And there's something about the music and something about the bass player that just strikes him. And he and the bass player form a relationship. And what the book is about is this Dionysian energy. The bass player's name is Jade, and Jade opens Pete back up to who he is inside. His creativity, his spirit, his sense of art. And it's a really beautiful thing for a while. However, the tension that runs through this is Pete's now investigating a mafia family that is promoting Jade's band. So they've got to keep this quiet.
You've got everything in this book.
Oh yes. There's everything in this book.
No stone unturned.
But you asked me about the cover, so I'm going to show the cover and explain now what this means.
The horn. That really.
The horn. This is an actual Venetian mask.
A what?
I found the mask.
Venetian, okay.
Venetian. I was in Venice, Italy. I've been there several times, and I was there when I finished the final edits on this book. So that was kind of a stopping place for me. And walking through the calles, and I came across a mask maker's shop, and this mask was in the window.
That's wild.
And I said, this mask has to be on the book, because what the mask looked to me is the kind of thing a Maenad would wear.
What's it made out of? Horns, really?
It's actually made out of whatever mask makers make masks out of. Those are not real horns.
Yeah.
You can wear this on your head if you,
You
want
could do that
to.
on Halloween, for God's sake.
Exactly. Well, actually, there's this whole tradition in Venice of going to the masked balls and being really done up and hidden behind masks. So I went in and I talked to the mask maker, and I asked him about that, and I said, what do you want for the Maenad mask? And being Italian and very proud of his heritage, he said, that's not a Maenad mask, that is a Bacchante mask.
A what mask?
A Bacchante mask.
Bacchante, okay.
Okay, the Baccantes were the ancient Roman analogs to the Greek Maenads. I don't want to say any culture is one for one, because it's way too simple.
Mm-hmm.
But if you look at it from 70,000 feet down, Baccantes and Maenads had a lot in common.
Yeah.
Baccantes were raving women. They followed the god Bacchus. Bacchus was associated with wine, just like Dionysus was. There was a lot of similarities.
Yeah.
So essentially, it's like a Maenad mask. And I said, this conveys to me the sense of mystery that's in this book, the sense of history that's in this book. There's this whole aspect of the book where Jade's band is also supported by a woman who claims that she lived in ancient Greece and that she's been supporting creative artists for centuries. And Jade is just the next one in line. And so there's this sense also, and I don't want to give too many spoilers away, where the book takes these detours back into different points in history, especially near the end of the book. There's this really intense scene where Pete has a kind of a vision of his possible previous lives with Jade. Don't want to say too much more about that right now. But I thought this just grounds the book. It's simple. And I also thought, you say you do book PR, book marketing.
Yeah.
At the moment, everybody's book cover is I guess, glaring, elaborate, draws you in as much as possible.
Did you self-publish it?
Yes.
No, what? Yeah, that she gets to do her own. That's really...
Well, I wanted something simple.
Yeah.
Because
Well, that
all
grabs
the
the
covers
attention,
I'm
that's for
seeing are very...
Well, as soon as I see this come in the
Ornate.
mail, I'm like, what? This is fantastic. I mean, it looks...
It stands out because it's simple.
It does. It really does. Now, we have been talking with Carol Michalson, and she's the author of this really wildly different book, The Maenad's God. And it is kind of it's a thriller. It involves drugs, the mafia, magical realism, satire. You also have the audiobook of this?
The audiobook is in process. The audiobook is almost completely recorded.
Did you narrate it?
No. I hired professional actors to narrate it.
Wait, my gosh. All right, before we go any further, how can they get a hold of your book and you, maybe have you come and speak?
Okay. Well, I will first talk about the audiobook. We're very close. There's a few very minor walk-on type characters that are not recorded yet, and when they're recorded, we'll be going to Mixdown, and I hope the book will be out later this year. And I just want to say, because I'm very proud and feel very strongly about this, there is no AI in this book whatsoever. It is all human actors, all done by live artists.
Right.
That's very important to me. But anyway, where people can buy The Maenad's God, it is available on Amazon. It's available in Barnes & Noble. It's available at Kobo. It's available on Apple Books. It's available in a lot of other places online. If you can buy a book online, you can buy Maenad. It's pretty much everywhere.
Are you also at Tatnook or at Barnes & Noble?
I'm Barnes & Noble online. I'm at Scioto in Douglas.
Yeah.
I'm at the Book Lovers Gourmet
Yeah,
in Webster.
I know Deborah very well.
Yeah. I would
Don't
like to
forget
be at
Tatnook.
Tatnook, and I really should contact them, is all I
Yes, you
can
should.
say.
Yeah, we've had the owner of Tatnook, the director, on a couple of times. She's very open to authors. And have you ever been in there?
Long time ago.
Oh, it's... You've got a big room if you want to give a presentation. It's great. And then usually, I think a lot of the authors like to sit kind of towards the front at a table, and then they walk around with their books and meet people, meet and greet. All this, is it almost a sci-fi in a way? Not a sci-fi aliens, but a fiction, a fantasy type of...
I think if I had to call it one thing, I call it literary fiction.
Okay.
It's character driven, but I mean the plot does move. It's not just total rumination, but there's a lot of philosophy. It's a lot of ideas. Language is often the main character, I think, and it's literary fiction that draws from different genres. Now, a lot of reviewers want to call it psychological thriller, and I can live with that. But I don't think it's genre. It doesn't fit a pattern. It doesn't fit a template. It's just a story about a man who's completely alienated, briefly finds love, finds himself in a place where he's beginning to be healed from all of this awful stuff that happens. And then there's issues, of course, because, of course, the true love never ran smooth. That's what it's about. So I guess you could call it romantic suspense. But when I call it these things, a lot of readers have this expectation it's going to follow a genre template. And a lot of genres, do. Certain things happen at certain times and get resolved in certain ways. And within that formula, yes, there's some freedom, but it's formula. This is not formula.
No. Is this your fifth book, Karen?
Yes, it is.
Now, your other ones, were they all along the same idea? Or just very different?
My other ones... I didn't know this at the time I wrote them, but they included the same idea. Before The Maenad God, I wrote a trilogy. It's a literary fantasy. It's called the Enemy Glory trilogy. And within that trilogy, there is an artist figure.
Enemy Glory? What's it called?
Enemy Glory.
Enemy Glory. These are interesting titles you come up with.
That's a phrase from the trilogy. What it means in terms of the world that I created for this is it's an expression that means things always turn around and come against you or come for you in a big. It's like the Wheel of Fortune. So your enemy is glory in a way. But the narrator Llewellyn, he is an.
This book is interesting because it's not chapters. What does this mean? Stave 1.
A stave is a verse. It's a book about music. Okay. It's a book about rock. Okay. And a stave in old-fashioned times, I guess in the 19th century, the stave was a verse. And I was thinking of Dickens' Christmas Carol, because the Christmas Carol is stave 1, stave 2, stave 3. And I said, what if I put a book and I structured it like a song? And this book, long as it is structured like a guitar solo. I mean, it starts off rather slow, then it lifts, then it kind of explodes, and it goes really fast, and
then
then
we
it
have
kind of dies down.
business. That type is this. Business. Yeah. Business 5 or business another.
Fifth business?
Yeah.
That's an old theater term. When you had, traditionally in theater, there was, the main character, the hero and the heroine, and then 2 supporting characters. The 4 would be anchor, right? If there was a 5th character that was necessary for the plot to get stuff done, they became known as the fifth business. And that's a phrase that was used by a Canadian writer that, I forget his name, but he used that book as a title of one of his books. And I thought, that phrase from theater is interesting, because in that particular chapter, there's almost like a 5th entity, 5th force that
Do you
gets
picture it as a play in your mind? Do you picture this?
I didn't when I wrote it, but I do now because I've been directing an audiobook.
Well, yeah.
And I've recently signed on with a production company to, it's going to be a film. So I've been collaborating with the screenwriters, and I absolutely am thinking of it in terms of a play now, because I kind of have to be.
This is it, the bottom, I love it when back, they always tell about the books in the back. You should have your picture on there, my friend. Really? It says, a seamless blend of thriller, dark satire, magical realism, forbidden LGBTQ, I can never say that, romance, and myth. The Maenad God is the story of a spiritual war that's been fought for thousands of years. The war between the ancient arts of music, poetry, and love, and the equally ancient forces of artistic envy, oppressive law, and authoritarian religion. When did this come out? When did you write this?
Well, it came out in 2022. When I wrote this that's an interesting question. I wrote the first version of it back in the 90s. And then I put it away, because
Wow.
at that point in time, and I'm going to have to say this, and I hate saying this, because it is a gay love story, and it is a love story between two men. Whenever I shopped it, if I got an agent's attention, they weren't happy with somebody writing something like that. They didn't think it would sell, which I think is disgusting. But it is out now, and I put out the story the way I want it to be put out. When I went back to it, I got kind of a checkered publishing history. I did publish, to talk about when this came out, I published the first 2 books of my trilogy with a traditional publishing house. So I'm not like 100% self-published.
That's
I did not-
expensive. That's expensive more than self-publishing.
Yeah, well, the traditional publisher, it costs them more to put out a book than it costs me. Let's put it that way.
Yeah.
After 2 books, it was really obvious to me that I wasn't happy in traditional publishing for a lot of reasons. And they did kind of want to push me to just do formula. And I didn't want to do formula. I wanted to do literary fiction. I have no idea why my agent sold literary fiction to a genre house, but I'm not going to go there right now. And I decided to go to law school, and I became a lawyer, and I practiced law for many
That's
years.
amazing.
I just left. When self-publishing became viable, I decided I really want to write again, and that's when I wrote the 3rd book of my trilogy. And then I took this out from the 90s, which at the time was an 850-page manuscript.
Yeah.
I really went nuts with this
This
book.
is not a small book.
No, it's not.
No.
It's about half the length of the original. And I said, what can I do with this? So I interviewed editors. I hired a wonderful editor. His name is Don Weiss, and he's worked in traditional publishing. And what can we do with this? And so he guided me as to how we could cut this into something manageable. So I kind of did some rewriting recently, too, in order to accommodate the cuts. But that's how this came to be. And I said, look, if I do anything in my life, I want to put this out. I'm really proud of this book. I think it's the best thing I've done.
You have Karen Michalson, the author we're talking about right now. On the back of the book, I love it when they tell us about authors. She earned a PhD in English from the University of Massachusetts, Amherst, focusing her studies on 19th century British literature and history. She later earned a law degree from Western New England University. Is that in Springfield, Mass?
Yes, it is.
I think one of my sibling went there. And ran a criminal defense practice somewhere between literature and law. She formed a progressive rock band, Point of Aries, in which she writes music, plays bass, and sings. Point of Aries has released 4 CDs, 2 of which contain songs based on her first 2 Enemy Glory books. Enemy Glory and Hecate's Glory?
Hackett's Glory.
Is there anything you haven't done? You have quite a background. When you graduated from high school, Karen, did you know you were going to go this far in life with all these different wonderful things?
No, I didn't. I originally I wanted to be a scholar.
A scholar.
And
But you are a scholar.
yeah, I suppose. And that was, I really thought, if I could see myself doing anything, I saw myself in a university researching, writing like cool treatises on obscure writers. And I did go that route. I did get a PhD. I did teach for a couple of years.
You taught law too, right?
No, I never taught law.
You taught
I just
English
practiced.
writing. Right?
I taught literature.
Yeah.
I taught 19th century British. And at one point, and this is how writing happened, there was a period between my PhD and getting my first university job, which happened to be at University of Connecticut at Storrs. But I didn't get that job immediately, and it was about a month after graduation. I was sitting in my home, and I was sitting in my computer, and I was just like screwing around, basically. I didn't really think about what I was writing. And then when I finished writing, I started reading it. And here I am, a literary scholar, right? And like, what am I screwing around with? This is fiction. This is the first chapter of a fantasy book. I was not planning this. And Llewellyn, who narrates the fantasy trilogy, just sort of came out of nowhere. And he took me by surprise, and I was so wrapped up in fiction writing, I left academia.
Well, you have a very vivid imagination, and it's hard to control that. If you're really talented like this, that's going to be very hard to hold back and just stay to just something like literature, stay just that way, just one thing, one genre in literature. You've gone beyond that. I mean, way beyond that.
I don't think I have a good imagination. I think
Gotta have for this.
I think what happens with a lot of writers, and not everybody will put it this way, and not everybody feels comfortable saying this, and it's not true of every writer. Every writer's different. I think I need to say all those prophecies things, but I think writers channel stories. I think they come to you somehow, and I had no idea. I mean, what I was seeing when I wrote was seeing. I hate using that word because I get always called out. Oh, you saw a vision? No, I didn't see vision. I'm not claiming that. In my mind, I get this mental image of a young man being held at sword point by a slightly older man who was his enemy, but they had used to be best friends.
Yeah.
And the enemy wanted him to tell his story at sword point. And his Enemy Glory Trilogy is a Llewellyn story of how he came to be evil. And how the surface reason this happened is he grew up in a really terrible country, lots of famine, people with no rights, and he was on the verge of being sacrificed to this horrible goddess, and a friend of his in school got him out and got him to this new country that was beautiful. It's called Thrill, and there's freedom, and people feel secure, and there's food, and there's friendship, and he's working with this man who's trying to save the country from these invaders. And he's kind of like adopted into this new family. And he's like, these are my brothers and sisters in arms. I love being here. I would give my life for Thrill. I would do anything for Thrill.
Were you like this as a child, creative like this? Did you grow up like this?
I grew up reading a lot.
Reading? What was your thing? What did you like to read the most? Was anything like this? What?
Shakespeare, probably.
Oh, wow. You were way ahead of the rest of us. We were given what? What was the standard thing? You get a paperback of the famous literary, I don't know. And I remember thinking, oh, God. So you had to get through it, right? But you were way ahead. You were already interested in this type of thing. In the literature aspect. I think the rest of us is like, just give me a good mystery and I'll go to sleep. You were way ahead. So when you graduated high school, did you go right off to UMass?
No. I had a gap year, and that was a really difficult year for me, and it was not my choice.
So you didn't go right to high college?
No. That was a dark time for me, and I don't want to talk about it publicly, but when I did get to college, it was maybe a year later, and I knew I wanted to study literature.
Yeah.
I mean, it's what I'd always been doing.
You went for 4 years?
Yes.
Did you live on campus, or did you commute?
I lived on campus. I did not go to UMass as an undergrad.
Yeah.
I went to Framingham State.
Oh, I went to Plymouth State, New Hampshire. Yeah. Framingham State. That's a good school. I've been up by there. Well, you go along Route 9, you look up, you see one of the big dorms, We are talking with Carol Michalson, and she's the author of a very unique book, The Maenad's God. Carol, again, how can they get a hold of it?
Okay, I'm being told to put my book up.
Sure.
Okay, Amazon, and Amazon definitely, Barnes & Noble online, Kobo, Apple Books, pretty much anywhere online that you can buy books, you could buy The Maenad's God. If you go to my website at KarenMichalson.com, there's a whole list of places you can buy the book. Just click on, you'll see a big image of the cover. Just click on that. It'll bring you to a page with all kinds of places where you can buy a copy of this. Locally, you can get it at Ciutu's in Douglas. You can get it at the Book Lovers Gourmet. And maybe at Tadnock after I talk to them.
If they want you to come, would you give a presentation or just a book signing if somebody wants you?
I've given presentations, and I would. And I have a page called Appearances and Interviews that's full of local appearances and presentations.
Yeah,
and
you
definitely
give the gift of gab, definitely. So I can see you handling a presentation. Okay, before we close, is there something? I bet you've got another one coming. Have you?
I am working on another one.
I thought so. They usually are. So, can you give us a quick clue?
No. Here's what happens when I'm writing another book and it's not quite finished. If I start talking about it, it goes away. It's
is
not
it a
mine
mystery
anymore.
or a thriller?
Neither.
Neither. Okay, okay. So is it going to be as big as this one?
I don't know yet.
She does not know.
It depends where the characters take me.
When do you think it'll be done?
This year, hopefully.
Okay. All right. So we can look forward to that.
Okay.
You'll let us know all about it so we can get her on again and you can tell us all about that. Thank you so much for being with us.
Well, thank you.
And don't forget to pick it up. It's over at the Upton Library, too. She stuck over there before the shoe. She's a smart girl. And it's over at the dedicated authors, local authors section. And you can't miss the cover, guys. I mean, this will stay with you. It may keep you up at night, too, reading it.
This will be your personal Bacante Maenad mask to bring you into realms of imagination.
Thank you for being with us, Karen.
Thank you so much,
We'll
Jan.
see you next time and be my guest.
Riding on a shooting star, heading out toward a dream. Tomorrow's even closer than it seems.